To customize or not to customize? To modify or stick to the original? Now, that's a question most watch and car collectors ask themselves. But the answer is never so simple. It's neither one or the other. In fact, there are so many ways to personalize your stuff without abandoning the purpose and beauty of the original design.
In this episode, we dive into the world of car and watch enthusiasts to explore the many ways they transform their collections into objects that reflect themselves and their customers. We'll visit the garages, the workshops, and the ateliers, where these prized possessions are restored, modified, redesigned, and personalized by hand.
So join us, I'm David Celdran, and this is Executive Class.
Never before have car buyers had more choices in brands, models, colors, and trims to choose from than they do today. Still, that hasn't stopped most from wanting to accessorize, even modify a brand new car that would have looked perfectly desirable straight out of the factory. Indeed, why would anyone want to modify a new Lamborghini? The answer can be found here at Titan Works, a garage that specializes in mods for luxury sports cars. The two-story garage in Quezon City is co-owned by Keith Brian Howe, whose modified Lamborghini Huracan gives us an idea of just how far and how much some are willing to go and spend to personalize their ride.
Right out of the factory, these cars are already so beautiful. They're tuned properly. They go through some of the best quality standards, the best designers in the industry. Why would clients want to change that?
Individualization, personalization, that's one first thing that they want. And they want it like, okay, I'll share you a story. One customer of mine had the Ferrari meet. Right after the meet, it's his first time to go to a car meet and all. Right after that meet, he called me, "Hey Keith, I look like the same all 30 cars. My Ferrari looks the same. I really want to change it."
I guess that's right. No? You're parked in a parking lot and you're so proud of your 30 million peso car.
Yeah.
And right beside you is the
It's
exact
the
same car,
one, right?
maybe in a different color.
Yeah. Oh no, not even. Sometimes it's the same color.
Keith and his Ferrari owning friend aren't the only ones who think this way. A quick scan of the supercars undergoing mods in the garage show that owning a great car isn't enough. It's got to look and perform like the only one of its kind out there.
In the world of customization, it's pretty much sky's the limit, or rather, the budget's the limit. So it could mean anything from transforming the engine and transmission system like they're doing right now with this Nissan, or something simpler like what they're doing in this Mercedes-Benz SLS, where they're replacing the hood with a carbon fiber top. Complex or simple, it's up to the client really, and his imagination. Okay, let's just say, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
How far would you go to modify a car?
Customer's car, I can go as high as maybe 7-8 million. Some builds are like that.
And what would be part of that 8 million modification budget?
Wheels, twin turbo kit, superchargers, suspension, brakes, interior, the whole shebang. I always say complete package.
Of course, not all the cars here are getting that ultimate makeover treatment. Mods are a slippery slope, and some clients prefer to take baby steps first.
Some of the changes are so subtle, it's hard to tell what's original or stock and what's been modified. In the case of beginners, it usually begins with the wheels, a new set of wheels. Later on, they graduate into something more radical, like this one, for example. A modified engine to increase power.
But even just replacing the wheels in a supercar isn't as simple as walking into your neighborhood car shop. Cars at this level require specialized equipment to meet the performance standards they were made for. Any modification, from wheels to engines, need to be tested thoroughly for compatibility. In some cases, Keith will fly in a mechanic from the US just to be safe.
When you do cars, like for example, some cars are meant to have like only 800 wheel horsepower. After that, I always explain to the customer, hey, if we go past that, we will have some more, let's say, challenges. I have to explain each step to be sure that the customer knows what he's doing on the car.
Because most mods void the manufacturer warranty, the owners of these cars trust Keith and his crew to make sure these changes are safe and can be easily repaired and maintained. This Audi R8 was tuned for added speed, with new forged wheels and a lift system installed for higher clearance. 3 mods that are considered simple, at least compared to replacing the exhaust of this McLaren with a Novitec system from Germany.
It shoots flames, like literally flames. This is a 600 LT Special Edition McLaren, so it's super rare to see one, but to see a modified one, it's super rare.
Not all mods are visible, however. The most challenging, though satisfying improvements are usually hidden under the hood, so to speak.
You cannot appreciate the modifications in the Porsche because you cannot see anything. But yeah, see the intake system, it's carbon fiber, then exhaust, then bigger intake plenum.
So this is new.
Yeah, it's all modified. This is not stock.
Also the methanol.
Yeah, it's a methanol, then we changed everything here. Big turbos as well. This has stock turbos, we made it bigger.
The huge boost to 850 horsepower on this Porsche meant having to modify the suspension system as well. And when work on this BMW is over, it will be the first supercharged E92 M3 in the country, with a big boost from 420 to 650 HP. I've always believed Lamborghinis looked and performed perfectly right out of the assembly line. Yet some still find ways to tweak their Lambos, be it a simple wheel upgrade like this Gallardo, or something more radical, like a new exhaust system for this $500,000 Aventador SV. Crazy? Not really, if you see what Keith did to his own Lamborghini recently. It's the ultimate in personalization, the first wide-body Huracan in the country. Keith's way of showing clients it's possible to modify a supercar and still do it safely, and yes, tastefully. For aesthetics, Keith started with customized forged wheels, which he himself designed with a color that matches the Huracan's leather interior. To enhance the performance, he lightened the car by picking a wide body kit made entirely of dry carbon fiber. Then he modified the naturally aspirated V10 engine with a supercharger to produce 800 horsepower. Light, powerful, and beautiful, and the one and only one of its kind on the road. What else can you ask for? Well, that depends on who you ask, of course.
There are 2 types of car enthusiasts: those who heavily modify their cars to make them look more interesting, and those who like to restore them to their original condition. We're here in Cebu City to visit Kenneth Copmantua's garage to see which side of the fence he belongs to.
Unlike with the newer cars we found at Keith's garage, the vintage and classic cars in Kenneth's Cebu workshop are being restored to resemble what they looked like when they rolled out of the showroom all those decades ago.
I think I'm a purist when it comes to the form and it comes to certain things about the car, but I will not stop at upgrading things that make the car safe because I love to drive my cars.
So where do you draw the line?
I always look at the designer, the original designer of that car and what he intended to do with it. And then I tried to make everything as close as possible to the original intention, and to bring out the beauty of the car. I guess being faithful to the designer's creation, because I'm a designer myself. I don't want anybody to come and put stuff on it where somebody thinks that it can be made better.
Restoration is never as easy or pure as it sounds, of course, especially since most original parts are no longer manufactured. Even the original paint of a vintage car would have faded by now, or been painted over by a different color by the previous owners. Cars also need to comply with safety regulations, and that means modifying the brake system, or replacing old wiring. But there are limits to what a serious collector is willing to change.
A lot of people want to put power steering on cars. I don't want to do that because I think you lose the original feel. Again, the designer's intention. A lot of people put air conditioning in the car when engines were made to it. I don't do that too.
A new stereo is also taboo. Any mods that need to be made shouldn't compromise the car's original vibe and allure. It's a principle Kenneth applies to every car he acquires. His latest restoration project is a 1972 BMW 3.0 from LA. He picks cars that haven't been previously restored or modified, so at least he knows he's working with the original parts and engine. Those parts he can't source from original manufacturers, he makes himself in his metal workshop. Even the paint work is done here, so he can supervise every detail.
I pick the color that best shows the car. Yeah. And I always pick, it has to be a period color, meaning that that color was available during that time, and I picked the right color for that car. Yeah.
So why ink orange?
Yeah, I just think that in a shape like this, because it's kind of like very quiet, that it can take a bolder color.
Kenneth's faithful approach to restoration and his designer's attention to detail have impressed collectors, and his garage is now full of rare and exotic cars sent to him from all over the country. The rarer the car, of course, the longer and more expensive it is to restore. That's why mass-produced models from brands like Volkswagen have become a cult favorite among hobbyists looking for a more affordable option. The German brand was founded on the promise of producing an affordable people's car, literally a Volkswagen. Over 21 million of the Type 1 or Beetle have been produced between 1938 and 2003. And because the iconic design of Ferdinand Porsche hasn't changed much over the decades, it's become one of the most accessible restoration classics. This restored 1962 Type 1 Beetle owned by Robert Bautista is an Instagram star of sorts. It's so popular, young couples often request it for their weddings and pictorials. His other prize restoration project is a Type 2 Volkswagen, what many call the Kombi. Type 2 because it was only the second car manufactured by Volkswagen after the popular Beetle. Because there are far less of them in circulation, the Kombi has become extremely collectible now and increasingly expensive to acquire.
For this one, I want to have a touch of vintage. So I painted white and beige. And the interiors, actually, we restored the interior to its original seats before, but I plan to modify it afterwards. Then the engine, we got it good. The engine is good and running, but we changed some parts to make it more roadworthy.
Unlike Kenneth Cobonpue, Robert has a more liberal attitude to restoring his vintage cars. After all, in their heyday, these Volkswagens were cheap and common, so their owners never thought twice about modifying them. They weren't status symbols or investments for resale. They were fun cars loved by both hippies and middle-class families, and were often personalized in the most imaginative ways. And that's what Robert did. He kept the key parts original, like the engine, and much of the exterior design elements. But the paint combination is his own. So too the interiors with its sofa seats, wooden floor, aircon, and entertainment system. In that sense, Robert is perhaps staying true to the original intention of the manufacturer and the customers who bought them. A people's car to be driven for fun, a van to love, and tailored to one's desires and whims.
The fun part is when you drive it around, people are looking at you, some people are taking pictures, and that's very fulfilling.
Indeed, no matter how you choose to modify or restore a car, joy of ownership is the most important reason why we even do it. Up next, after the break, we show you two of the most common ways to personalize a watch on your own: watch mods and bespoke straps when executive class returns.